Heyo and welcome back to New World to my first ever build, my level 1 through 30 leveling build, which is Great Axe and Hammer combo, which is why it is a Thor themed build. I'm going to have different iterations at likely 45 and definitely 60 that will have everything fully kitted out, like the best gems, the best armor, the best weapons, everything like that for you guys. But for 1 through 30, it's primarily for leveling. Whatever loot you guys find along the way will do very, very well. I'm going to show you guys the stuff you want to look out for, stats wise, weapons wise. It absolutely smashes everything. It is a DPS based build and absolutely just 1 to 2 shotting at most enemies and does really, really well in the raids as well, like Amarin or any of the corrupted portals. I'm currently, I think, level 31 and I'm smashing level 35 portals. That's how much DPS we're putting out. It is a ton of fun to use. I've done both the open beta and the closed beta, so I think I have around about 250 hours in the game. And these two weapons as a combo is my favorite I've used so far. I think the only ones I haven't used like life stuff and fire stuff. Everything else I've given a good shot, and these are definitely my favorite so far. But yeah, I'll go over everything you guys need to look out for whilst leveling with this build. The weapons you want to pick up with the different attributes or abilities on them. Same situation with the armor, they can roll with different specs, as well as how you want to spend your attribute points and your weapon mastery points, the different attacks or abilities, and then the extra skill points you spend along with those to really max out your damage for PvE as well as PvP. I'm definitely primarily PvE at the moment, doing the Amarin runs and the corrupted portals as I go through the game, but if you guys want to flag PvP, you'll definitely be able to do it with this build. It's just a ton of DPS for crowd control as well as against single target. I probably just changed one ability, which I'll let you guys know via the weapon mastery, but you'll be able to do both situations very well. Starting off with attributes, now this will 100% change at level 45 to 60. You'll definitely need to switch up a little bit, but from 1 to 30, you really don't need anything else except full strength spec. You don't really need any constitution. Nothing scales in dexterity, intelligence, or focus that we are using. Great Axe and Warhammer only scale in strength. So you get a bunch of light attack, heavy attack, as well as stamina attack in these 3 checkpoints, plus just overall damage, which we love to see. Constitution's the only other one you can spec if you prefer to have a little bit more survivability. I definitely haven't had any real problems. I think I've only downed 5 to 10 times the entire game. You really don't need it yet. I feel like I'm definitely going to need it later on, but in the packs and Amarin runs or corrupt portals, absolutely fine staying surviving those. And then in open world, even by yourself, I'm mostly running solo and I'm totally fine. But that's the only other one. If you'd like some more survivability, go some constitution. Now, as for the weapons and the armor you guys want to look out for, like I said, this is a leveling build. We don't have perfect gems, perfect rolls on all of our stuff yet. This is just the best loot that you can find as you're going throughout the game, doing Amarin runs, doing corrupt portals, or just any other missions. Look out for these things pretty much. We definitely don't have perfect stuff yet. For example, our Warhammer looks really good, but it is still 6 levels under level. It's 26, I'm currently 32, and it's still doing really, really well. The main thing you want to look out for all of your weapons and all your armor is plus something in strength. This is a really good one. Plus 16 in strength is why it's still keeping up, even though it's under leveled. Then you can compare it with your damage number at the top there. Those are the 2 main things. The other thing is gear score is important overall with your stuff. You want to have a general eye on keeping high gear score. I believe, don't quote me on it, I've heard from multiple YouTube sources that having a increased gear score means you'll have a higher gear score drop chance. Essentially, the stuff, if you have a high gear score, the stuff that drops in game for you has a higher chance of being that high gear score. That's what I've heard at least, so I generally try to keep that as high as possible. And then the extra abilities at the bottom are just bonuses. If you have gems to slot in there, perfect, chuck them in there. And then the bottom there, chain ice. If we had chain lightning, that would be perfect for the Thor build. I think that's what I'll do, 45 and 60 kind of range. Now, as for my axe, honestly, this is a very average or below average axe. I really wanted to point that out. You don't have to have like plus 16 strength axe to be hitting very, very high damage numbers in this game. This is just an on level. It only scales in dexterity and focus, which are both being wasted at the moment, if I'm going to be honest. But it has a high damage number, a decent gear score, and it still hits like a truck. My last one was like a level 24, and I was still using it at 30, and I just kind of needed to replace it. So that's the current one I have. But if you have, you can buy them from your faction rewards. That's a really good place to find on level great axes and hammers. You can craft them if you have your craft ability up in your weapon smithing, or just look out for them in corrupt portals and raid runs. That's the main places I find them. Now, as for armor, I mostly spec medium. I have spec'd light in the open and closed beta. I personally don't mess with heavy. I like to be able to dodge frequently and just dodge those attacks. I focus that over just being able to tank things. I think medium is the good middle ground. You don't get instantly hit by the really strong enemies and you still have a decent amount of dodge. You can go light if you guys want. Now, depending on how much you've played the game, I'm currently messing up by having this bar below 23 by this much. If you're in medium, you want to be at 22.9. You want to be as close to 23 without hitting it as possible, because I'm wasting armor that I could be having. As long as I'm under that weight of 23, I have medium armor and I get the medium armor specs, which just includes 10% bonus damage and healing, and your crowd control debuffs you apply last 10% longer. And of course, your dodge is just a quick hop rather than the roll that it is on light. That's the way I spec it. It's up to you guys though. My armor right now, the main thing I focus is having plus strength on everything. As you guys can see, it's on pretty much everything, minus the chest plate. I have intelligence, which is wasted unfortunately, but I have the luck from rare chests as well as enemies. You want to find as best loot as you possibly can. So if you can find that stuff on your armor and have strength, perfect. Chuck that on for sure. Now, you don't have to wear just medium, you don't have to wear just heavy, you don't have to wear just light to be in these categories. You can mix it up. Each individual thing has different weights. As you can see, my helmet's medium, my chest plate is heavy, my gloves, I believe my pants and my boots are all light, and it adds up to in the medium range. So you can mix and match as much as you want, whatever you find in the world, as long as it has, you know, some strength on there or a good bonus like my chest piece. You want to be looking out for that kind of stuff on your armor. Also, just a quick mention, my jewelry at the moment really does nothing for the build. They're just from the main story, a little bit of constitution there, and that one's just wasted. You don't have to worry about that at level 30. I'll get into it more at 45 and 60. So unless you're really interested in jewelry, you don't have to worry about it, if I'm going to be honest. Jumping into the weapon mastery though, we'll start off with the Warhammer. I'm only at level 10 and Great Axe is only at 13 because it's my primary at the moment. That's pretty average for level 30, I'd say. I haven't put any effort into like increasing those any higher for my regular level, but we'll keep going as I level up and explain what I'm going to be doing. So starting with your abilities, you want to get Armor Breaker, you want to get Mighty Gravel, and you want to get Wrecking Ball to start off with. Those are the three main ones whilst leveling. I'm definitely going to ditch Armor Breaker as I get to like 45, 60 kind of range, but it's a good one for leveling for sure. I just want to be all in this tree as much as possible with my skills so I can get down to this bottom one here. But these two are your primary abilities, and they're really good. As for your extra skill points spent, this one's a great one to start with. Hardened Steel, essentially you add grit to your heavy hammer attacks. Essentially, grit means you cannot be interrupted in your attack. If you get hit whilst attacking, it's not going to stop and waste that ability. That's really good. Plus, you take a little bit of damage reduction whilst the grit is active via that ability. Then we'll go down this tree from Wrecking Ball, because that's, I'd say, probably the primary one. Essentially, after hitting an enemy with this attack, you'll take 20% less damage for 4 seconds, which is particularly nice against the big guys, because you can't flatten everyone, so these big dudes are still hitting you, so the damage reduction is nice there. Breathing Room, essentially this is more for the smaller dudes. 1.5 meters around your attack, all enemies will be flattened, not just the guy that you hit, which is also quite nice for just taking out multiple smaller enemies. This one, essentially, if you get hit pretty much while doing the attack, you're going to do 35% more damage, which is also really good if you're taking on multiple enemies at the same time, getting hit regularly. So you're flattening them and you're doing more damage at the same time. Then I usually go for Summary Judgment. On targets under 30% health, increased damage done by Mighty Gravel attack by 20%. I don't really like increased damage under 30% health because it's not very often. I'm usually hitting things very hard, so it's usually a 1 to 2 hit. They're not usually under 30% health, but mainly I'm trying to get down the tree, but also for bosses, that's a nice one to have. And the final point I spent is adding grit to my Armor Breaker attack, because I was getting knocked whilst doing the animation, which is super annoying wasting that, so I just add that extra point there. Now going forward, I'm essentially going straight down this tree. Like I said, I'll probably be ditching Armor Breaker later on, but for the next 3 points spent, I'm going here, and then getting that Justice for All capstone and messing around with that if you guys want to see what the general future is for those skill points spent. And then I'm probably going to ditch this for one of these three over here. Now, as for the Great Axe or Stormbreaker, if we're sticking with the Thor vibe, I've had the most time in game with this by far, and it's easily my favorite weapon in the closed beta, open beta, and the actual game. We are going Reap all the way. Bringing enemies in from 5 meters, doing a 110% weapon damage is really nice. Picking up the Collector extends that to 8 meters, And then the hunger actually heals you. 30% damage done by Reap is really, really nice. And then adding on to combo with that, Fatal Attraction, essentially do a spin move after you're bringing the enemies in. So you bring them in, do a spin, both have the life steal, which is really, really nice because we don't have a huge amount of health with this build. We're all damage, no constitution at the moment. So having that life steal is sick. If you don't have a healer around, that's a really good one to have. Execute is really, really good in PvE. That's the one we're going to change for PvP. But it is a huge damage hit for any boss, any small mob, anyone that isn't going to easily be able to dodge the attack. It's a ridiculous amount of powerful overhead. 200% damage, deals 300% damage against enemies below 50% health. So if they're a big guy, you can get them below 50 and hit them again. But any small dude, trust me, if you hit them with this already, they're not going to be alive. You hit them very, very hard. Unstoppable Greed adds grit to that attack. You don't want to be knocked because it is a slow animation. You want to get through that, so definitely spec the grit for sure. Now over in the purple tree, heavy attacks with Great Axe pull enemies closer to you. You want things on you at all times because we're slamming enemies into the ground with the hammer. You're bringing them in with the axe. You want to have enemies stay on top of you. So heavy pull is great for that. Enduring Strike adds grit to Great Axe heavy attacks, which is really nice, and you get a bit of damage reduction with that as well. You don't want to be knocked whilst trying to hit enemies. It's super annoying. You just rather tank the hits and get out your attack. Now, Gravity Well, I've only just started using probably like 10-ish levels ago, and is so good for crowd control. When in Amarin or the elite zones or corrupt portals, if there's multiple enemies, Gravity Well brings enemies to them and then explodes. But also you're keeping them in that small area. You can just go at them with your axe, with your hammer, get all your spam attacks out. It's really, really good, particularly with groups as well. We have first Crowd Well, which increases burst damage by 10% for every enemy caught in the vortex, but with groups, it's really good with Unyielding. Allies gain 10% Fortify while standing in your well, which means they take reduced damage. So if you've got a whole big group of people and enemies in the one spot, chuck the well in there and then just go ham with all your abilities because they're going to take less damage, but the enemies are going to take a ton of damage and they're not going to be able to dodge your attacks, which is excellent. And the final point I missed over here, my bad. Critical gains. When you make a critical hit with a Great Axe, heal yourself with 10% damage done. If you didn't know, hit enemies from the back. That is crits every single time with the axe and the hammer. It's very, very nice. So try and have a tank situation or just dodge around to the back of them whilst they're doing their attacks and hit them in the back. Other points I'm going to spend. Essentially, I want to try and get down to Bloodlust. I do have some points over here, so that's going to be a little while still. Keen Edge, increased crit damage by 10% will be very nice, particularly when you're hitting crazy numbers like 1500 to, I think I've hit a couple in the 2000s range already with Execute. So if you have all your abilities up, you're hitting crazy crits. So increasing that by 10% sounds nice to me. There we go. I was trying to find it. Execution is speed, hitting more than one enemy, which happens very regularly with the Great Axe. You get increased 20% haste, aka you move faster, which is also quite nice. Now, like I said, if you guys want to spec PvP, get rid of Execute. It is a really good thing if you hit it, but it is very hard to hit in PvP situations because it's a very slow animation. They see it coming every time, and it only takes one dodge, to be honest. So get rid of Execution, get rid of that spec right there. Instead, spec Charge as well as Frenzied Momentum. Essentially, it is a sprint attack. You chase after the enemy and then do a swing at the end of it, doing more damage the further you ran to hit them, essentially. So you can run a circle around them, or if they're trying to dodge out the way, just sprint straight out at them. You'll do so much extra movement speed, they will not be able to get away. If you want a lethal PvP combo, hit Charge as they're trying to run away. You'll hit them with the first attack, and then the Reap brings them back in. You do a spin move, which hits them again. Hit them with a Gravity Well so they can't leave because they can't dodge out of that. Switch the hammer, slam on the ground twice, and then honestly, if they're still alive, just hit them with the Armor Breaker, and they will be done every single time. It's lit. That's been the first iteration of the Thor build. Looking forward to bringing you guys level 45 and 60 variations in the future where we're fully kitted out. Make sure you subscribe for that in the future. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for the build, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear them. Other than that, we have a Twitch we stream to every night. We also have a Discord, both linked in the description down below if you want to check them out. And other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll catch you guys in the next video and a live stream. Till then, adios.